All right, guys, I have got something different, unique, and extremely exciting, and actually something that you guys have had questions about. I've got metal vocalist and vocal coach Elizabeth Dedu on the channel with me today. Elizabeth, what's up?
Hi, how's it going?
Very good. Thank you so much for joining. I know you've got a lot to offer my audience here. Guys, if you remember about a week or two ago, I let you know I'm going to have a metal vocal coach on my channel here. And I just asked you guys to present any questions that you had. And I had a ton of questions come in. So Elizabeth, she's
That's
read through
awesome.
them. Yeah, it is cool. And we're going to answer, or Elizabeth is going to answer all those. And just real quick, guys, Elizabeth has truly helped me out a lot. You guys know I've been playing live almost every weekend, so we do have some things to offer you at the end of this video. There's actually a special only through this, so make sure you hang around for that. But Elizabeth, before we get into the questions, I want to give you an opportunity. Thank you again for being here, but tell us a little more about yourself and your music experience.
Okay, well, I am a singer-songwriter. I am also a music producer, and I'm also an audio technician full time. I've always been a singer all my life. I was a choir girl.
Cool.
I grew up singing gospel and opera. Opera taught me the music theory, gospel taught me the soul. And then college happened, my early 20s happened, and then I just got shoved into the metal world and I was like, oh, cool, I like it here. So I
Nice.
took all of my classical training and all of that, and I found a way to, create songs. Like I had a lot of friends that were into like the metal scene, and then eventually I kind of fell into a couple bands, tried that out, and really got into songwriting because of that. It's like every week, every other week, I had a band being like, oh, write a song to this. I'm like, okay, cool.
That's awesome.
So never wrote metal music before. And then that's what really got me experience with just like listening to metal, really understanding it, and writing my own metal songs and metal melodies. So I just fell in love with it. And yeah, so I had that classical training and I brought that into my metal vocals. Right now I'm composing my own album, which is progressive metal,
Okay.
but my first single is coming out next month for sure.
And guys, I will let you know when that comes out, by the way. So that's awesome. And that's one of the things, one of the big reasons why I asked you to come on. And of course, why Ken and I with Metal Mastermind, you guys are aware of our course platform. Why we chose Elizabeth to work with us is because your diversity in style. Yeah, we're talking about metal vocals here and rock vocals, but you do so much more than that. And my
Mm-hmm.
personal feeling has always been you've got to learn how to sing like properly before you get into these other obscure styles. So, Elizabeth, the first question, and this is probably the most asked question from my audience, because my audience is primarily guitar players. This is a guitar channel, but a lot of folks just don't know quite where to start with singing. So, what advice, what tips do you have for them?
I would say a good place to start is just simply, you could be sitting on the couch, like just simply get into the mindset that you want to sing. You want to discover that side of you that sings. You want to be that person that sings those melodies in your head. You want to get them out.
Yes.
And, maybe if you are a guitarist or a pianist, or if you compose music on like DAWs, like Pro Tools or Logic, and you like to compose music and you want to add vocals to it, you want to try it out. You want to see if you're any good, if there's something that you feel comfortable doing. And that's awesome to be curious like that. So just kind of get into the mindset that it's like, all right, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And then, investing in a course is a great place to start. I definitely would recommend starting off with my course because I do make it easy for beginners to kind of just like start getting
Yeah.
comfortable and just like learning that really like important information about vocal health and the longevity of your voice, and just listening to music that you like, and like just like your favorite bands, your favorite vocalists, and just really kind of get into the mindset that you're going to do this and why you want to do this and why you really feel like you're going to enjoy singing your own music or singing some of your favorite songs.
It all starts with mindset. No matter what
Mhm.
you're doing, you guys know I'm a full-time musician now. I do this for a living, And that took a mindset change to leave my full-time job to do this, to
That's
take a
so
chance.
awesome.
So you really, and you have to get into the mindset, okay, well, I'm going to sing. Maybe I'm not sure where to start, but no, I'm going to do this. I'm
It's
absolutely going to do
happening.
this. And Elizabeth, you mentioned the course, Metal Vocal Virtuoso. We're going to talk a little bit more about that coming up.
Cool.
I want to get to our next question, which is, talking about warm ups, what type of warm ups, and and how important are they, and why are they so important? Because I know sometimes uh like me, sometimes I like to just get up there and just do it, and I've been guilty of this, doing this on stage on the weekends. It's like, okay, I didn't warm up, and I just
Oh,
we want
same.
to
Yeah.
just go.
No, I mean, it's like it happens
Yeah,
totally, especially if you have like, 3, 4 gigs in a week or something. Sometimes
yeah,
it's like it's just go time. But, all of those months and years and all of this training that I've done, I can get away with that sometimes because I know
yeah.
when I get on stage, I know exactly how I should be breathing and how my posture should be. And also, if I am not feeling well, I
Mhm.
know, like, when I'm pushing it and when I'm not pushing it. And that does take experience. We're used to breathing a certain way, just breathing regularly after we like run for a long time. We're out of breath or breathing really quickly. It's like a muscle memory to breathe a certain way. When it comes to singing, you have to breathe a different way. You have to breathe with your diaphragm, and you have to get used to breathing that way. And that is like something that's very important with singing, especially with metal vocals. It can be
Yeah,
very, straining and damaging if everything is up here really tight in the chest. You
yeah.
have to learn how to use that muscle, which is your diaphragm. And that does take practice because it's not something, we're used to doing all the time, every day.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, metal adds a different element to singing. I mean, it's one thing to use your normal singing voice, as we call it, but then when you're right, you do have to push that metal voice. And even like my do acoustic gigs, you guys know I do acoustic gigs on the weekends. I average like probably 2 gigs a week, and
Nice.
yeah, and having and some of the songs, even though I'm playing acoustic, some of them I want to push more of that edgy rock. And your course, you talk about, you've got exercises for rasp singing, that edgy style, and
Hmm.
that's kind of more in line with what I do. And but yeah, I notice if I don't warm up and try to do that, definitely a push to warm up properly.
Hmm.
That kind of leads me into the next. Actually, I got a lot of questions. You guys had a ton of questions about this because we're talking about metal vocals, singing without damaging your voice. And in the first question here, this Brian, I'll say Brian here, he wasn't really too interested in the guttural style, because Elizabeth, I know you can do that too, and you teach that along with all these other styles. But he's like, I wish I could train my untamed baritone voice to have more of that harsh shout without destroying my vocal cords the next day.
Okay, well, yeah. I definitely put some of those like guttural, those growl kind of vocal techniques in the course because it is something that people have asked me about.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of include that as well. But a lot of the stuff that I teach just daily, a lot of the stuff that I personally enjoy singing usually isn't that, Sometimes I do the growls depending on the project that I'm working on. And I'm glad that I've learned a way to do them properly. So when it is time to whip them out, they're ready to go and they're super fun. But I usually go for like a more stylistic way of singing. And it's interesting that he said baritone because I'm an alto and I also sing very
Oh,
low as well, even lower than an alto. That's like my comfort range.
okay.
And I like to sing with a lot of fullness and harmonics and that boomy bassiness. I think that's like super sexy and cool. And that's like how
That
I
is cool.
prefer to sing. And that natural rasp will come out too. So I'm so used to singing that way that I've learned a method to it and a method of teaching it to people that are interested, people that have seen my singing videos on YouTube and said like, hey, you're a vocal coach, teach me how to sing in that kind of style because they've already seen me do it. So I've taught it so many times that I do feel comfortable, kind of sharing that information on how to just kind of create a stronger, warmer, lower register with your regular singing voice.
That makes sense. And we're kind of going back to like really having a strong foundation. If you know the old
Mm-hmm.
parable, if you can't build a house on the sand, you've got to have a strong foundation. And a lot of folks like to jump right into those harsher styles without developing that foundation first. And I think maybe You would agree that's the key to longevity, though.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of singers, we know a lot of famous 80s singers and 70s singers that they can't do it like they used to.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And and what do you think? Do you think it's just lack of care for their voice, or maybe they tried to push too hard?
A lot of the times, like especially like rock and rollers, they probably didn't go to a vocal coach. Maybe not most of them anyway. The
Yeah,
ones
yeah,
that are doing those kind of screaming kind of vocals. It was more just like that rock and roll lifestyle,
just gonna do
partying and
it.
whatnot. That can really like affect your voice over time. So it really depends on like the person, but I just feel like it was a different time back then, and now there's so much education that you can access that it's
Yeah.
almost a no-brainer to get that education when you're ready to start singing that kind of style.
Gotcha. And speaking of styles, I want to get into this because I had a few folks ask about more of those harsher styles like the Jesse Leach, the Matt Heafy, Phil Lambante, and bands like All That Remains, Killswitch Engage, and some of that more, it's almost like I guess metalcore is what you would describe
Mm-hmm.
that as. And even getting to some bands like I like Amon Amarth, I don't care to listen to just death metal all the time, but when I do, it's usually something like that. How do we do that? But I think it's a little bit more involved in that. Is
I'm
there
excited
any?
to answer this. I'm like
Yeah,
bouncing. I'm like,
good.
yeah,
I'm ready for it.
I'm glad you said metalcore. I was in a metalcore band for a long time, and I've
Okay,
composed a lot of like metalcore songs and listened
awesome.
to a lot of those bands you mentioned. And it's all in that mixed belt, that mixed voice slash mixed belt.
Yeah,
I did a lot of shows where majority of the songs was just me like singing loud, belting, and throwing those growls here and there, like little chili peppers, a little flavor here and there,
I
but it was
love
mostly
that.
just like singing, with power, that kind
Yeah,
of metalcore style. And then some of those like verses or phrases that were just all like growls. And it's interesting because when I was in rehearsals for those like shows, I wouldn't do the growls all the time. Like
okay,
most of the time, like 70% of the time, I was just kind of doing half voice or just speaking the growls because I didn't have that adrenaline. I wasn't there yet. And I didn't want to force it. Like there
gotcha.
has to be like a certain like energy level for me to execute those growls properly. And that just took years and years of me knowing my voice.
Yeah,
My voice is an instrument. If your guitar, if the neck is starting to warp a little bit, you're not going to play it to death, right? You're going to get it
right,
fixed.
right.
Or I don't know if you can get that fixed or not, but you know what I'm saying.
Time for a new
Um,
guitar.
exactly. Yeah, the neck warping's not a good thing.
No, it's not.
Same thing with the voice though. Once you do it, you start to know your voice more and you're able to
Yeah,
tell when you can really like push those growls out. But when I was able to do it, it felt easy and smooth and just like, flowed naturally because I was already in that healthy mixed belt area.
yeah.
And it just went right into growls like a light switch.
Awesome, awesome.
So I feel really comfortable like singing that style and also teaching that and getting people hyped when they're trying to like learn that kind of style.
Speaking of that style, question from Tina here, and guys, I've combined a lot of your questions, so forgive me if I'm not calling names out all the time because many of you had the same exact questions, which is awesome, which I'm really happy about that. But Tina asked about practicing distortion in a healthy way, and is that really a distorted voice though, or do you think? I know some people use effects when they're in the studio, maybe on stage as well, but I know there's a difference between using an effect to get that distortion versus getting that growl. So is there a true difference, or is there a specific way to practice the distortion in your voice?
Well, I definitely knew what she meant by distortion.
Okay.
I think she meant that kind of maybe like more like raspy kind of way
Yeah.
of singing, or that kind of growl where it's almost like it sounds like they're talking. It's not too loud. I hear it a lot in metalcore, but it just sounds like really like epic growl singing. And it sounds very easy, like effortless.
Okay.
So I would consider that just like distorted vocals, distortion. And then also with the effect, like with mixing, adding distortion to vocals,
Gotcha.
there's that as well. But I think it all kind of like is in the same realm with knowing how to locate your vocal fry naturally, which is like
Okay.
the foundation of most like growls and raspy vocals, just like easily finding that vocal fry in a really relaxed way. It's like you kind of relax into it and then you find that sweet spot and then you just know how to use it, in the song. So yes, there is a healthy way to learn how to sing with distortion. And it does take some practice. And I definitely go over these techniques in the course.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm happy to, talk to you one-on-one about it too, if you'd like.
Sure, and that's awesome because I mean that's a really good question too. I never,
Mhm.
I didn't think about the
It takes
distortion until,
practice. It takes
yeah,
explaining and that kind of thing.
yeah. It's not something you just want to run out and it's like, okay, I'm going to do this today. I think you have to build up to that. Now, the cool thing about the audience here, their questions, a lot of folks had the questions that cater to that death metal and metalcore styles. But then, of course, I've got a different side of questions that say, well, that's funny. I always find it funny when they say, I don't want to sing the Cookie Monster vocals. But not every rock and metal singer wants to sing that. They just want more of that, I guess, rock style. So Sean here, for example, is asking, how can I sing lower metal with more power and volume and articulate the words? Says he's not a fan of the Cookie Monster vocals, but I'm no Bruce Dickinson. This is a good question. Because I actually have this question as well. And I think my question is a little bit different. Actually, I'll save mine for the end. So, because
Okay.
I'm special, right? No, I'm kidding. No, but do you have any advice for him? It sounds like he has a limited range. So he's like, but he doesn't want to sing the death metal, but with a limited range, is there a way to add more volume and power to that? I don't know.
I'm assuming that he's talking about his comfortable range of singing, but just
Yes.
adding more metal, more power to it.
Yeah.
Definitely. You start off by just reading the lyrics that you're
Mhm.
singing and really over pronouncing them, just like every
Ah,
vocal teacher will say, really enunciate, over pronounce.
okay.
The only difference with like metal though, and this is something that I've just kind of observed with my metal singing, and I think it really does help, is with classical training or most other genres, you are practicing long vowel shapes, right? So nice long mouth to really enunciate. But with metal, I kind of like call it like showing your fangs.
Yeah.
It's more of like a wider vowel shape.
Okay.
And it's not really like too closed here or tense here. It's you still have that big open vowel shape, but you're showing the fangs like
Oh,
that.
awesome. Okay.
Yeah,
Vampire.
exactly. And that's like, when we ever see people do growls and all that, they kind of have like that, like demon face, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
really helps. It really helps to add that power, to get into character, just really over pronounce all those words and add like those fangs in there. And you will see there'll be a lot more power and a lot more room for you to add some more rasp and more, like heavier breaths for drama, for dramatic effect and stuff like that. And that's just with vowels. It's important to overpronounce the consonants as well. I
Okay.
say consonants are the leverage for those vowels to pop. Yeah,
Okay, cool. That's
that's my
interesting.
little advice there.
Well, that helps me because, and now just thinking back, now you're talking about that. Now when I know I'm doing that on stage, everything comes out a bit smoother. And part of it for
Mhm.
me is just memorizing the lyrics to the songs so that you have that confidence and you can do that. But yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So I've got one more question here. So this person's a beginner singer songwriter and thinking of vocal melodies when they're making riffs and chords. Their question's centered around that. So, being a guitarist at heart, it says I can think of a vocal line kind of like a solo, I guess, like a guitar solo, maybe. So, do they need to stay within that, I guess, perfect skill? Or I don't know. So this is more centered around like how do we write those melodies, more into the, I guess, the songwriting, which has to do with the vocals as well, obviously. But what are some tips you have? Because you're a songwriter as well and you're a
Yeah.
composer. So is there anything that you think about going into it as you're writing the vocal melodies?
I say knowing the notes that are within those chords are going
Okay.
to help you quite a bit, because if you're doing like a typical chord progression, let's say, I don't know, C major, F
Okay.
major, A minor, G major, right? Probably one of the most common chord progressions.
Yeah.
And those notes, within those chords, C, E, G, F, A, C, you know, one of those notes in there is going to work in your
That's gonna
melody.
fit. Okay.
So if you have that, you know, one chord like C, 4 counts, and then F for 4 counts, just hold out one of those notes for each of those 4 counts.
Gotcha.
And it's going to work. And that's a good foundation. It's probably the easiest, most basic melody you can come up with.
Yeah.
But that's where you can start. Then start moving that melody around. And before you know it, you know, you can probably think of a harmony for that. It's like this note works, but also this note works. Let's see how it sounds together. But just start off with those chords, knowing what the notes are, and coming up with a melody based off those notes. And that's a great way to start.
That's actually helping me right now because you know as songwriters, you know, we all get stuck sometimes, and you know, you just simplified everything though by giving that strategy. It's like, okay, start out with just those basic melodies, knowing the notes within that key. And then I think your ideas will just start to flourish once you start humming that, you know. So that's a really good question.
Yeah,
Now
the riffs
is
just start coming out.
yeah, and they just exactly, and you guys know, you know, you play guitar, and it's like once you put pen to paper, it magically kind of starts to happen. It's the same thing with guitar. Once you start playing, you know, you come up with riffs, and there you are. Now for my question, I have a question. Is it really possible to I know it's possible to increase your vocal range, because you know we had a question about that earlier, about someone that feels like they have a limited range, and I feel that way sometimes. I think we all have our limitations, but is it truly possible to really substantially go beyond that to a different height? Or if not, should people be just more focused on their own tonal quality and their own unique sound versus trying to push and sing higher and higher?
Yes and yes. Okay.
Okay.
I know you said this or that, but I say yes and yes.
Well,
Okay.
good. That's actually what I wanted to hear. So
Starting with the first yes. So when it comes to expanding your vocal range, a lot of the time, like a majority of the time, what's keeping singers from expanding is not knowing where their vocal registers change. So you have
Okay.
like your lower voice, your lower register, like your chest voice, which is what I'm speaking in right now. And if I put my hand here, I kind of feel it buzzing in my chest.
Right.
It's literally
Okay.
my chest voice. And then I have like my mixed voice, like, hey, how's it going? What's up?
Yeah.
You know, up there, that kind of like voice. That's my mixed voice. And then you have your head voice, which is like very soft and airy. And those all feel very different, right? So knowing when your voice changes, it just, you know, come to a piano, just go up the scales, sing along with it.
Okay.
And see where your voice wants to, like, I don't think I can go any higher in my chest voice anymore.
So you
Time to
switch.
switch to my mixed voice.
Ah,
However,
okay.
to make it sound smooth, like as if, you know, a lot of people do this in theater, it sounds like they're belting to the gods, because it's so, the transition's so smooth. You start that mixed voice a little bit before you run out of those chest voice notes. So
Okay.
knowing where it is, and then starting that next register, that next vocal register beforehand. And you do that with each section, that chest voice, the mixed voice, the head voice. So
Okay.
it's smooth. And then the second yes, right, would be, you know, I think everyone has like a comfortable singing range. I definitely do. I love
Yeah.
singing in my alto range. And like, it's comfortable for me. And I think it's important to know that you are a good singer if you don't hit the high notes, or if you don't hit the low notes. You
Okay.
know, like, it really embrace that area of your voice that you think sounds the best, and you can be the most creative, you know, because there's so much room in that vocal register where you're the most comfortable, that you can get away with a lot more things, because
Mm.
you're not, you know, doing so much to sing in that register. It's very comfortable for you, you know, so you can do those weird, crazy riffs, you know.
Yeah.
You can do like a lot of different things in that vocal register. And it's important to own that as a singer. And, you know, if you find a song you like, get it in your key, and sing it to, you know, the fullest in your key. And there's nothing wrong if you can't sing the original key. And just really embrace that comfortable range that you sing in. So yes and yes.
Thank you. And you just nailed it, because I was going to ask if I'm cheating, because a lot of the cover songs I sing on the weekends, I do a lot of 80s, and I don't have that range that the 70s and 80s singers had. It's phenomenal. But so I transpose a lot of songs on acoustic to F sharp minor or C sharp minor. And that also allows me to play a lot of open notes on acoustic as well. So it actually sounds a lot cooler. But yeah, I was gonna say, well, Elizabeth, am I cheating? Because I can't sing, John Bon Jovi, and I can't sing Heart. I mean, you know what I mean? So I've got
Hey, if I
to.
wanted to listen to Bon Jovi, I listen to Bon Jovi.
There we go. Okay,
But I want to listen to Jason Stallworth sing Bon Jovi. So I'm going to
gotcha.
hear him sing it in his range, And I wouldn't say the word cheating. I was like, what do you mean by cheating? Because no, I don't think you're cheating.
Good.
I
Okay,
think
good.
you're actually a very smart musician by creating like shortcuts. Like any musician, a pianist, they will look at the left hand because the right hand's easier to kind of just look at really quickly.
Yeah.
The whole goal is for your brain to do less work so that you can catch up with the music, right? So if you're doing a key that's more comfortable in your range and much easier to play with a lot more open chords, then you have room to make eye contact and add that extra riff and remember that little choreography that you wanted to do, walk over here, walk over there. You have more, you're more comfortable and you have more room in your brain to do those extra things. So I think it's actually a smart thing to, adjust songs to your range in your key.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. That gives me a
Mhm.
ton of clarity, and I know gives you guys
Yay.
clarity watching as well, because I've had a lot of questions on that. A lot of my audience, some of you guys do sing, but a lot of you don't. And I've been kind of pushing my people to get out there and do open mics, because once you start building up that confidence, Elizabeth, I want to ask you one more question, but real quick, guys, I want to let you know. So Elizabeth has a vocal course, an online vocal course. A lot of you have my Metal Riff Master course. My guitar courses are Metal Guitar Apprentice, but part of the Metal Mastermind family. She's released a course called Metal Vocal Virtuoso. So I've got a link in the YouTube description. Elizabeth, and this is the thing I want to tell you guys earlier, this special, Elizabeth does one-on-one lessons as well. Of course, they're virtual, but she does one-on-ones, and you get a discount if you buy the Metal Vocal Virtuoso course. You'll get a discount on her one-on-one lessons,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm probably going to take you up on that as well,
Yay.
because I
Hang out
need
with me.
I
And it's
need
like
I need
super
help.
low pressure, especially if you're not comfortable
Yeah,
singing and stuff. It's like, come hang out with me. Let's like sing a couple covers to get started. Let's
yeah,
do something.
that's
Even if you
awesome.
don't want to sing that day, you're going to learn a lot. Just, having that one-on-one. I can see where you're at, where your struggles are, this
Yeah.
and that. We can, just expand from there and grow from there. And then also the video tutorials are just like full of information. I put so much work into that. So,
You
I
did,
definitely
yeah.
know you will benefit from the course and like the one-on-ones for sure.
I was actually the first customer to buy the course. Yes, I
I
didn't
know,
give
I remember
myself
that.
any
I was like,
discounts.
yay.
Even though I'm co-owner of the platform with Ken, I whenever we have someone release a course, I pay for it, and because I want to give you credit for, because you worked so hard on that, and I
Thank you.
generally wanted the information. I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
go, and so I need to go back through there and finish it, because I started it and I got real busy, so I got to go back through and finish it. But
Ken too, he
guys,
was doing like a bunch of
yeah,
growls for his musical project, and he noticed a big difference after watching my
that's
course, and
awesome.
he
Yeah.
told me about it. He's just like, yeah, it changed. My growls changed. I feel a difference.
That's awesome. Yeah, I got to go back through. I got to go back through those parts and finish up. So I'm going to do that starting next week. Elizabeth, I wanted to see just if there, and guys, links are in the description of the video for the course, and links to follow Elizabeth as well. So definitely check those out. But Elizabeth, I want to just give you an opportunity to. Is there anything that you would like to tell, my audience, who again is primarily guitar players? Is there any last words or advice you'd like to give them in this video here?
Yeah, definitely. So in my course, I did include some material on something that I thought was very important, especially as a vocalist. When you think vocalist, most of the time you think like, that front person,
Yeah.
right? Like the lead, all eyes on you. It's a
Oh
lot of
yes.
pressure. And once you start thinking about like performing, you think about what character you're supposed to be and like trying to figure out who you're supposed to portray on stage, and it's a lot of pressure, and it's just like almost like I didn't sign up for this, I just wanted to sing. And then you get that first show and you're like, what do I even wear? So I included a bunch of material just about finding your musical persona in the most authentic way, like most authentic for you, and what you want to represent with your music, with your voice, like just really like discovering what you find the most important when it comes to sharing your music and people listening to your music and listening to you sing. You find that truth first, and then you find out just like those keywords that really describe who your character is.
Yeah.
And just kind of getting to know that side of you that gets to be up on stage with all eyes on you, or even if it's like a video online, a original or a cover that you decide to post online. And it's exciting. It's fun to discover that side of you, that musical side of you. So I added some material in there, and I think you'll really enjoy it. And it's a very fun and intuitive process.
That's cool. And you mentioned stepping into character a couple times. I just want to close with this. And just thinking back, I think part of being a vocalist or a musician in general is you do kind of have to step into your character. Your character is you. You're kind of playing yourself, but I think you're also creating that character in this whole process. It's like a journey. It's not, and that might evolve as you progress more. But I'm just glad you mentioned that, because especially with, really pronouncing those words and making those faces and getting into it, and it just helps you become that. And once you become that, it kind of circles back to what you're just talking about now on stage. Your audience is going to see that, they're like, oh man, okay, this is something here. This is cool. It's a show. At the end of the day, it's a show.
It's fun to discover yourself, honestly.
That is
like
awesome.
that creative side to yourself.
Awesome. Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much once again for being on my channel and giving my audience all the value. So I really appreciate that. Guys, please leave any questions you have in the comments. Elizabeth, you'll be reading these. We'll read them together, and we'll try to get back to everyone. So and who knows, we might do a part 2, because I know I expect a lot of questions to come from this. I will probably have more questions for you as well. So
awesome. I'm so down for a part 2. So
yes.
Definitely, let me know if you have any questions.
I definitely will. Guys, leave any questions in the comments. Don't forget to check out the links in the description of this video. And thank you guys so much. Please give this video a thumbs up, share it, make sure you're subscribed. And until the next video, you know what to do. Keep it metal.